Tayrona National Park is in northern Colombia and a must-visit if you're planning a trip to the country. Tayrona is also a UNESCO site, and the park itself is a beautiful mixture of cloud forest and in some cases almost untouched beaches. The particular tree in this picture is close to the beginning of the trail and is used by the indigenous communities for shampoo. Now I figure it must work well since they have beautiful hair. The park has a decent trail that makes it a doable hike. I had a problem with my ankle and I still found it manageable. The only thing I would say is because northern Colombia is along the Caribbean Sea, it is really hot. And this being a cloud forest, it makes it feel like you're doing cardio in a sauna. There was sweat coming out of every pore on this hike. I got my tour guide to list out the indigenous communities that hold the park as sacred and special. It is definitely a beautiful park full of biodiversity. And in terms of preparing for a trip, before you leave health-wise, you'll want to get malaria pills, good mosquito repellent, sunblock, and a yellow fever vaccine. Also for the hike, you'll want to bring a hat, water bottle, and a swimsuit, since I'm sure you'll want to enjoy one of the beaches. The way I can describe the hike is it takes you to a lookout and a series of different beaches. I figure, based on the camp community, you can camp out at the last beach. The first stop is after a lot of up and down on a trail, and it is a lookout, looking out to this beautiful view. I thought these views were spectacular, but the stop was also a great way to catch your breath. The humidity can take it out of you. One thing to mention, this trail is shared by people who have rented horses to take them around the park, so just watch for someone on a horse, not really paying attention and going a little bit too fast on a narrow trail. Also look out for horse poop since you probably don't want it on your shoes as you're walking around. The second stop was to the first beach where there were some nesting turtles. The area was blocked off, of course, to protect the turtles, and this makes sense. And something else to mention is there are two restaurants on site, one before the first lookout and one at the last beach on the trail. Our group pre-ordered our lunch at the first restaurant, which I found was much quieter and a good place to relax after the hike. The third stop is at the second beach, which gives a nice opportunity for swimming. I didn't stay here because I wanted to get to the last beach, and I found this one didn't have too many shaded areas. Now this bird in the tree, in this picture here, I had a lot of problems taking a picture of. And it's called a Cartagena bird, at least according to my tour guide. Hopefully he wasn't pulling my leg. When I finally got to the last beach, I was really ready for a swim. This last beach is more built up than I imagined. Outside the beach area are tents, which I'm assuming is some type of tent hotel. There is also another restaurant, as I mentioned before, and change rooms. The restaurant here is really busy. If you're not really interested in swimming and you still have energy, you can climb the stairs at the lookup point and get a better view of everything in the distance. Since my tour guide walked at some crazy speed and never looked back, I was ready for a break. Looking out further into the water, there is also a rock island that some people enjoy to jump off of. And I would have to say, out of this entire trip, my favorite place is Tayrona, and also the Aluna Waterfall that I'll talk about. I decided to go for a lighter lunch at the first restaurant and ordered two appetizers. I had a crab dish with fried plantain chips, which were extremely nice and tasty, and I also had shrimp empanadas, which were also very, very nice. During the trip, my tour stayed at a hotel in Playa Corella, which is a 10-minute drive from the park, or rather to the park. The hotel was really big on ecotourism, and I found the grounds really beautiful. I loved the landscaping and just the beach scene. However, the beach was rough, so you couldn't really swim there unless you're a strong swimmer. Our meals were included and they focused on all natural ingredients. Even though I'm not really a seafood lover, I couldn't resist the fresh seafood every day. This particular tour that I took focused on yoga, and we had our morning practices at the resort before heading out. And this particular cabana is used not only for yoga, but is also used for different weddings that they hold at the resort. Last food pick, they served arepas every morning, which I found very tasty. Now, one comment about mosquitoes, and I admit I may overdo it since I really swell up from bites. Now, what worked for me is I used a lotion that had citronella oil on my skin, and I also used, for extra protection, since I'm very paranoid about mosquitoes, Ben's in the orange bottle on my clothing. And by the way, I'm not endorsing anything. I'm just sharing my experiences and what worked for me. The hotel also organized a trip to the Aluna Waterfall, which is sacred to the indigenous communities. We saw the remains along the trail of a traditional house that is round, and the history behind this waterfall is when the indigenous people came down from the mountains into the city, they needed to purify their thoughts before returning to the mountains. Part of the purification process involved spending 24 hours at the waterfall preparing to return to their homes in the mountains. And this waterfall is just so beautiful. Now, the trail isn't really made for tourists and is in a really natural state. Some of the hike going down the trail is really steep. It's also pretty humid, maybe less than Tayrona, but you are sweating. And the waterfall is also another place to swim or have a nice picnic lunch. And this ends my comments for Tayrona and the Aluna Waterfall. Hope you got a few tips.